Item 3 is announcements. I don't have any announcements to make this morning. Item 4 on your agenda is approval of the minutes. We have the minutes from the May 15, 2025 meeting. They've been submitted by the Secretary. Are there any issues or corrections? If not, is there a motion to approve the minutes? So moved. Is there a second? There's a second. Motion is second to approve the minutes. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. Ayes have it. Thank you. All right, we'll move on to item 5, our regular monthly reports, and we'll get started with our board, Warren Seaver, with her warden's report.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning, and welcome to LCP. You're currently sitting in our work release housing unit here at the jail this morning. First on my agenda is population. As always, I present this. And I speak of May when I'm speaking. We're always the month before. So for our daily population, our in-house population average for 2024, it was 747. So 747 in 2024, and then for May of 2025, 813. And I'm happy to say our morning population, 805. So we're sitting at 805 here today at the building. We did have a high in May of 832. So I know I threw a lot of numbers at you. So 813 is the average for May of 2025 there. Talked a little bit about it last month because we had just had it, Corrections Week, and I wanted to present my Lock and Key recipient, the prestigious award that's given out here every year to William Hinton, and you did get to meet him last month. I just wanted to, again, just talk about Corrections Week. We held that, again, we're speaking in May 4th through the 9th. The commissioners came out, presented the proclamation to us, kicked us off there for that week, and then continued to come out throughout that week. Different events, the proclamation, as I mentioned, we had Military and Honor Guard Day where we recognized our staff that are involved. The Cassidy Drumline came out. That was kind of cool to watch. First time I ever saw them, so they were invited out. And then we had Wellness Wednesday, presenting a lot of those resources to our staff and making them aware that they do exist within the county. We had Awards Day where, handing out and well-deserved awards to different recipients throughout the week and that day especially. And then again, Lock and Key, we had different meals each day for our staff. It's a really cool atmosphere. I wanted to thank all our vendors that provided prizes for us to hand out throughout the week, and all the staff that helped. And I got to give a special thank you, as everyone here would know, to Kim. She cracks that whip and she keeps everything running, sets up the gym and gets everything going for us. So I have to publicly thank her as well. I believe next on my agenda, well, I'll speak to it because I know it is on my agenda. I told you last month that we were looking forward to our trip to Fayette County in Uniontown, about 3.5 hours away. A group of us had been there prior to them opening and building of their jail, their new jail. And now we were going up to see what was working and what wasn't working so well, what would they change. So myself, both my deputies, Castro Schiffer, Linda Schreiner, and Bob Devonshire, we made that day trip up and back. We toured that 330-bed facility. They had, sort of like us, they had an old jail in town, and they moved to the outskirts. So learned a lot, a lot of takeaways from keys, doors, fire sprinklers, vents, showers, all the things that, we're getting into the nitty gritty, suicide prevention and, all those type of things, and training of their staff, how did they do that? Transferring of inmates, working with the state police to get their inmates from that building, the old jail to the new jail, and that was a year out, so we needed to know how did that work, what would they have done different. They found out when they drove that first bus up to the new jail, their Sally Port didn't fit a bus. So they wish they would have made that Sally Port bigger to fit a bus. Big takeaway for us. And we came back and we told our reps, we need that Sally Port to fit a bus, make it a little bigger. So those type of takeaways. Thank you to Warden Lange, Major Van Meter, and their staff for welcoming us. Again, we talked about design concerns and things they would have done differently, from plumbing and shut-off valves, not being able to access them easily, door handles, wickets. So it was definitely beneficial for us to be up there, and we were grateful for the opportunity. I want to talk a little bit about, as you know, we do records audits twice a year. I have Captain Secord here. You know, he spearheads this. He oversees our records, our training, our commitment area. So they held a records audit, the records staff, and being overseen by the captain on May 22nd. I did present and lay a paper there of what I am reading, the details of that for all of you to see. I know you're just seeing it. I believe Judge Brown, you and I had previously talked about it. And I did talk about it with Judge Spahn recently this week. We had met, just going over some of the findings here. I'll talk about charges. They're looking at each file. So my record staff is staying over after their shift, and they're looking at every file. So I told you there's 805 on that day. I'm not quite sure. It would have been in the 800s, the population. So they're looking at every file. Charges not closed out in the inmate file. They found 3 out of 800 that the charges weren't closed out. And I might preface this by saying, the information that I'm giving here, none of it would have resulted in somebody not being released on time. And such. So charges not filed, not closed out in the inmate file 3, up from 2. They had 2, they had 3 this month, 2 the previous audit. DNA, our folks are required to do this. The DNA inconsistently logged in the file, 3 down from 18 the previous audit. So they're at 3, down from 18, I should say. Status changes, sentences versus pretrial. They were at 1, down from 20. So you can see how they're progressing and how, you know, the audits are beneficial, and they're seeing, you know, what do they need to work on, and, you know, what are they doing really well. So then the below items were reviewed and collected as part of the systematic review of the inmate population for various incarcerations. So this is new. And I know I've talked to some of you about it. Total amount of inmates on that day currently having an unsentenced PB, there was 124. Total amount of inmates in here on a PB tech on that day, 44. I know Captain Secord did share with me, he took a look at it on June 27th, and that was up. That PB tech violation was up from 44 to 57. And, you know, I know he was looking at it as late as this morning and actually saw an increase. 64 now we're at for those PB tech violations. Total amount of inmates with a PB and a new charge, 141 on that day. So PB and a new charge. So probation violation and a new charge. Total amount of inmates waiting on parole plan, that was 35. Total amount of inmates only in on a new charge, 224. So new charge is 224. Remember, keep in mind, I'm talking about 800 folks. Total amount of inmates in on only the new charge with bail under 100,000 for non-violent offenses. And when I say non-violent offenses, I'm talking assault, domestic violence issues or charges. So total amount of those type of inmates in on new charges with bail under 100,000 was 47 on the day of their audit. And the captain has here, we will be reviewing this info with ATIMS, our new software, for those of you that aren't aware, newer to us, to see what reports we may be able to generate with the data outside of one of our audits. And we have already created a report which can track the PB tech tally from above. Yes, so I did speak with Judge Spahn recently this week about some of these findings, and I had previously spoken with Judge Brown on some of those topics. And I believe I will be up to speak again about the new prison. I think I covered my agenda there. So yes.
Thank you, Warden. Questions, comments from the board on the warden's report?
Warden, I do have a question. With your audit, I had thought, maybe I was under the wrong impression that ATIMS was really wanted to be able to do this.
Yes.
But it can't right now.
Which part?
The numbers that we have here.
Right, so I'll let Brian speak to that.
So a lot of the nuances with respect to charges and PDs had to be hand tallied. They had to be hand tallied for now. It doesn't mean that ATIMS doesn't have that capability,
Okay.
but it takes a while to generate those reports to get all the different data points in the right place.
And we have asked them to do that.
Correct. Some of that is involving some of the integrations that they're still working on with JNet for docketing, because Obviously, when we talk about nonviolent crimes, it's a little bit subjective depending on who's using it. I gave guidelines for our staff to use just specifically for this audit, but I think that's something that the committee that's used to talk about releasing inmates and lowering the population, that's something I think they need to get together and decide, okay, what do we consider a violent crime? What level of bail should we use to say this is a bail that can be reviewed potentially for release, something along those lines? So,
I guess in doing that, I would just encourage you to use the statutory definitions for those offenses, so that we're all on the same page.
it's important we always use the same thing.
Okay, to be able to compare us to others.
I'm sorry?
To be able to do a comparison if we use the same definitions of us to other counties and federal.
Any questions from the board? Anybody else on the board's report? Neil?
The acoustics aren't perfect here, so
Yep.
there isn't part of that. Question I have is, I thought they were terrific stats or what I heard. Is there a way to get a recap on that from ATMs in the prison board report?
In the packet.
Yeah, can we do
I don't know
that?
what the question
I
is.
think he's asking basically, what you just reported, can that go into the prison board packet? And since it was hand tallied, my guess is it's not going to be able to be done every time. But if at some point we can get ATIMs to do that automatically for us, which is the hope, then yes, that's a reasonable request to go through that.
And remember, this was an audit that we did. I know what you're asking, but the first part that I read was an audit that takes place 2 times a year, and I'll remember next time when I do that, that I will include that, but I do understand the other part that they're asking about with the ATIMs. And of course, once we get those reports up and available, that's something we can surely do.
I think it's a simple SQL statement with a join or something like that to get that statistic. I don't think it's that complicated stuff. It's just placing the fee to do that.
It doesn't sound complicated, but it is, because, so, like any one of these, I could even dispute. So number 6, total amount of inmates in on only new charges with bail under 100,000 for non-violent offenses. Like, I could probably guess that some of those are classified as DUI offenders, repeat DUI offenders. Yet, I could still argue sometimes that's violent. Certainly when you end up crashing into someone, it's violent, and the propensity for someone to get hurt is high, especially with a repeat DUI offender. So the point I'm trying to make is that this isn't as clear-cut as it sounds, and it's not super easy because many of these inmates have new charges, PVs, parole violations, potentially other like domestic warrants. So like it's complicated. That's why they're having to do it by hand right now. We're hopeful that ATIMs will eventually be able to sort of be trained to do that for us, but it's not as easy as what you think if you're just on an outsider, which is, oh yeah, just tell me who's in here on a PV. It's each one of the cases, unless it's someone brand new who's never been arrested before, truly on new charges, it's usually complicated.
Right, and to your point, and Captain Secor reminded me, when I gave the total amount of inmates on a PV tech as 44, they had multiple violations. That one person can have multiple violations, so it's not them coming to jail for the first time on a PV. So there, to your point, there's a lot that goes into just one, preference here.
Well, we appreciate to see what you can do on that effort, and we're going to try to rely on video the person not hearing.
I think we're agreed in that data is valuable.
Yeah, and Neil, there is a lot of value, and I thank the warden for the numbers. Judge Spahns met with the warden, I met with the warden. We're going to be restarting the prison review committee to take a look at some of these numbers, particularly the tech violations and the nonviolent offenses for bail under $100,000 to see if there's a way to expedite those cases or why they're being held. So the first meeting for that is July the 9th, just to let everybody know. That'll be starting up again. Some of you have been around a while or familiar with that committee. Judge Reinecker started it back in 2017. It accomplished its purpose, but we can see a need for a closer look at some of the numbers, particularly with how the census has gone up with the prison. So thank you.
No, thank you, I appreciate it.
And then maybe next month, July, okay. So, yeah, so maybe in July we can get a little,
I'll be able to give you an update on how that committee is functioning.
perfect, thank you.
And Gordon, just for clarification, the audit that you discussed, was that something that the Department of Justice told us to do? Is this something we just decided? Can you explain
Something
the
we do.
Okay.
So when I took over, and along with Commissioner Parsons, and then the captain came on board as a lieutenant, how to say it nicely, the records department was in dire need. If you all remember, we had a release that was 17 months late. A gentleman had stayed here 17 months. The files just needed attention, the processes, it all goes to Captain Seaport and his staff. He turned the department upside down, literally shook it out, cleaned it up, and as you can see, he's now doing audits, just to keep on track and to keep everything, what do we need to work on, what's working well, and that's not just at audit time, that's throughout the week, throughout the day, they're always trying to improve things, so my hat's off and definitely big kudos.
So it's not an outside organization?
No, it's
We have
us.
to do this itself. We
It's us.
decided we wanted to do it in terms
Right.
of best practice.
They took the
Okay.
initiative.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and it wasn't just that one big high-profile case. There was problems almost
There was.
every day. And to you all's credit, and definitely Captain Seaport was the
Spearhead.
the person taking charge of that, and really, it was night and day. So it's good to see the continued work on that to maintain the standard. All right, thank you, Warden. We'll move on to item 5B, the operations report of Warden Castro.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
I'm going to begin with the security officers of the month for the month of May of 2025. The midnight to 8 a.m. shift, Correctional Officer Ashley Perez has been selected as May's first shift officer of the month. Officer Perez has displayed great teamwork and has an excellent rapport with her peers and the inmate population. She did recently become the first shift 2-5 permanent post officer, which is our female housing unit, in March of 2025, and has demonstrated her willingness to help ensure the facility's mission statement is being fulfilled. Officer Perez has been employed at Lancaster County Prison for 9 months. 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. shift, Correctional Officer Nicholas Casadonte has been selected as May's second shift officer of the month. Officer Casadonte has demonstrated a remarkable ability to effectively communicate with the inmate population, fellow staff, and the public. He continues to develop his interpersonal communication skills. He has recently been cleared as a visitation and a MAT officer. He is often the first officer to assist colleagues and diligently responds to auxiliary radio transmissions, demonstrating his commitment to teamwork and support. Officer Casadonte has been employed at Lancaster County Prison for 1 year and 9 months. 4 p.m. to 12 a.m. Correctional Officer Bruce Martin has been selected as May's third shift officer of the month. Officer Martin shows he can operate on a housing unit with little supervision and has shown a tenacious drive to assist others in growth and development. This is reflected in Officer Martin recently being certified in the Training for Staff Trainers program offered by the PA Department of Corrections. Martin can be counted on to complete all tasks effectively and efficiently. Officer Martin has been employed at Lancaster County Prison for over 2 years. Our Operations Officer of the Month for May. Correctional Officer David Hines has been selected as May's Operations Officer of the Month. Officer Hines is the 12 a.m. to 8 a.m. permanent post-commitment officer. He performs his duties in a professional and dedicated way. He makes the commitment intake process run smoothly and always makes himself available when needed. Hines is extremely thorough when training new staff and is a vital member of the 12 to 8 a.m. team. Officer Hines has been employed at Lancaster County Prison for over 9 years. Our staffing update. Currently, we have 2 sergeant vacancies. We are currently conducting interviews with the hopes of fulfilling at least one of those positions. We originally thought we were going to have 7 interviews, but we're only down to 5 as 2 of our outside candidates declined to schedule interviews. But we also have 4 internal candidates that are being considered. We ended the month of May with 29 correctional officer vacancies. On May 5th of 2025, a class of 9 officers started basic training. They graduated basic training on June 6th, and they are currently in the on-the-job portion of their training. That's all I have.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board?
Are any of the officers here?
I do not believe so, no, not this morning.
Last month, I think they came. They came last month.
The new officers came last
Yes.
month, but none of the officers of the month were able to come in today.
Other questions, comments for the Deputy Warden? Okay, thank you, Deputy. Next up is item 7, inmates services report, Deputy Warden Schiffer.
Good morning. I just have a short agenda this morning. First off, I wanted to talk about our staffing levels. Just an update from last month. We were able to hire for our open position, a coordinator manager position that's going to be focusing on data collection and entry, as well as curriculum development and instruction. The individual will be scheduled to start on June 30th, this coming Monday, and we will hopefully be able to introduce them to you at the next prison. I'm going to skip down to my final point, and then I'm going to ask Ramos and Ashley Kelly to come up and talk about what they've been doing. But I did have on my agenda that we were going to talk about our service award recipient. That individual is not in the office and did not get to receive his award yet, so we will be doing that next month. And if I can have Ramos, and as they're coming up, I just want to commend both of them for the tremendous work that they're doing on the programming that they're going to be talking about. And they've been truly dedicated to the process, and I'm going to let them have at it.
Awesome. Good morning, everyone. Might see me sweating, some of it is because of the heat, but also I'm really excited to express all the cool things we've been doing with our program. So for those who don't know me, I'm Marcos Ramos, I'm the Director of Inmate Services here. This is our reentry manager, Ms. Ashley Kelly. So on June 16th, we kicked off our new program, right? Our new program is called the One Unified Reentry System. We started with MRT, so there was 3 groups. Through rigorous process of recruitment and orientation, we were able to start off with 14 individuals. This is 2 groups of males and 1 group of females. For those who don't know what MRT is, it is moral recognition therapy. It's a form of correctional therapy. There are 2 main core principles that I wrote down, and I'd like to read to you guys. It focuses on moral development. MRT encourages individuals to explore their values and understand how their actions impact themselves, their families, and their environment. It emphasizes on cognitive restructuring. Participants learn to identify faulty thinking patterns and develop more constructive viewpoints and behaviors. I must give recognition where recognition is due. Our counselors have been so supportive with our program. From when I first started 2 years ago, Warden, I was really excited about bringing an internal program to then become a director and showing my team, hey, listen, I think we should pivot towards a more evidence-based approach, not giving us the limitation of who we serve. Our team believed in me. They knew me when I was an officer and then a drug and alcohol counselor. And their willingness and volunteering to be trained in MRT to the point where we were going through the self-sufficient matrix and the ORAS training. They were so excited that they had a competition of who was going to get the best score at the end of the training. So if you know anything about risk needs assessment, it's not too much excitement. With that, I just want to give the recognition to Ms. Catherine Powell. She is running the MRT group for our inmate trustee program for the female unit. That's our D block. 3-5 unit for Mr. Sotomayor. I believe he's been here 17 to 19 years without calling a day off. And then lastly, Mr. Miller, who's on vacation, but he has been doing an amazing job with his group as well. And those 3 individuals are not just doing MRT, they're also doing drug and alcohol as well. Just a side note, program participants will usually be housed together, so we're working on our classifications team so that they have that support when trying to process the content and homework material as a team. Some of the benefits: it improves decision making, decreased recidivism rates, decreased substance use, enhanced self-esteem and self-image for the inmates, increased sense of purpose, and reduced institutional misbehaviors. I wanted to also give a special shout out to the sergeant. I don't think she's here today, Ms. Heather Schaefer. Last week when we were kicking things off, she did come to my office and ask some questions regarding this new program. Ramos, what is evidence-based, right? Why are we doing this? You know, we had about a 45-minute conversation, and I kind of reeled her in, and she did ask for permission to sit in one of our groups just to see how it is. I asked the permission of our group if they feel that it was appropriate, since this is a safe space for them when we're talking about group sessions. They agreed to it. The feedback that I got from her at the end of the group was so positive. It was something that she didn't expect. She really engaged with the inmates at a different level than I usually see from like a security standpoint. It was very encouraging. And some of the feedback, I'll end with this, from the inmates to the future that are now coming into the program, since these are the first pioneers of piloting this group. You have to want it. The encouragement that they will give to all the newcomers is to give yourself that grace, that self-forgiveness, and take this group serious. Regardless of your age, you have a lot of life to live. Coming into this group, my main focus was to look good for court. After the first 2 weeks, my main focus is to be better and assist new participants in their transition to MRT. And then the last one, huge commitment. 38 pages is a lot, but it definitely has been rewarding thus far. Thank you.
Yeah, MRT is off to a great start, and I will say, when I first came in and Director Ramos shared with me what MRT was, I was like, I don't know if I'm gonna like this, right? Because one thing that MRT does is it forces you to really take a hard look at yourself. And sometimes some of the individuals that are coming in here, they've already been beaten down so much. But the reality of the group is, it's like better than what we actually thought it was going to be. We have our initial participants like picking the next participants, so it's like almost an honor to be a part of the group, and it is a safe space. So we're doing as much as we can to like allow shadowing, but at the same time, like it's their space. So you're doing an amazing job. So MRT is one of our core proponents of the holistic approach that we are kind of bringing into LCP. Another one of the programs is our relationship management course. So that has started as well. Our relationship management course is an 8-week course that meets individuals for 2 hours a week to discuss the importance of effective communication amongst all relationship dynamics. This course requires incarcerated individuals to dive deep into their personal relationship history and with vulnerability and willingness, discover the changes that must be made if they desire healthy relationships. Some topics this course covers includes attachment styles, love languages, apology languages, interpersonal communication, active listening, conflict resolution tools, boundaries, and how to effectively apply them, emotional intelligence, personal values, healthy relationships versus unhealthy relationships, and how unhealthy relationship dynamics impact our physical and emotional well-being. This is a very extensive course. I'm currently running it, and I'm having a lot of fun doing that, but we will be handing it off to somebody internal. So we look forward to expanding access to the curriculum to additional housing units in the future. Right now it's running on 3-2. 3-2 doesn't get a lot of programming, and they're absolutely loving being able to get off the block to attend the program. The next section of the holistic program that has started is our career development. Erin, if you could just come up and give a brief explanation of what you're doing, we would love that. Erin is fantastic. She has so much experience with career development. So this was very easy for her to get off the ground running, but I just wanted to introduce you to her as well.
Yeah, so our career development program, we are actually piloting with work release. I interviewed a group of 10 guys yesterday. Just to give them a brief overview, we're going to be partnering with domestics as well as probation to work with them to try to get some piloting off the ground, so when things start in here, they can also do the career development on the outside. So it's really going to dive deep into working with employers to hopefully eventually bring them in here so they can interview our work release guys and get some more employment and running it off the ground. We're going to be diving deep into interviewing, some resume writing, just helping them do the basic job searching skills, but as well as job retention, because we all know it's great to get a job, but holding it is the real big piece. Some of our partnership with probation on the outside is allowing them to meet with the career development specialist that works over at probation. And while they're there, they're going to be able to get things like a bus pass, hopefully get some pause on their fines, costs, and restitution for a little bit, just to help them find a job and kind of keep it while they're there. So the pilot program is going to be great. We're going to develop some life skills into that too, working with hopefully Goodwill to try to put them together. They're going to talk about careers, all of that fun stuff. So more to come as the pilot program starts.
Thank you, Erin. Just a few additional treatment and reentry notes. So our drug and alcohol program has been completely revamped. That doesn't mean that we're not using our core A New Direction content. We are. We're using all 7 books now instead of 5. But we've added additional content as well as a relapse prevention plan. So anybody that is familiar with the drug and alcohol field, a relapse prevention plan is important because we can teach you all of the content, but you need to have a plan in place when you are on the outside and you are triggered, right? So we've added that, which we're super excited about. I believe we have about 5 drug and alcohol facilitators now. And we are bringing outside organizations and treatment facilities in to present on different topics so that they can create connections internally before they're going to treatment. Our chaplaincy program brought in Celebrate Recovery, which is a 12-step program for our female population. We are hoping to possibly extend it to males, but we only have 1 facilitator at this time. We continue to see connections for NA and Dharma, so please, please, please let me know if you have connections. AA is on every eligible block right now, which is fantastic. And then last little piece of information, we hosted DSAA, the Public Defender's Office, Crime Care, Children and Youth, BHDS, and additional staff at our Staff Development Day. It's our first ever Staff Development Day on May 30th. So we just wanted to thank BHDS for allowing us to use their space. It's beautiful. And there is an ongoing opportunity for the treatment and reentry team and LCP to enhance their skills and just better understand the community. So that's all I have. Good job, Betty. Thank you.
So as you can tell, they've been working very, very hard. Honestly, these 3 are making it go. And along with our staff, we have a great team. I say that all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Questions, comments from the board on Deputy Board Supervisor report?
I just have a kind of a question, but a follow-up. Can you talk a little bit about the tracking of the outcomes of the new program? Like, how do you see in terms of when they're here, and then the ability to be able to track potentially recidivized or not recidivized, that kind of thing?
Yeah, so right now I'm actively working with ATIMs to make sure that we can pull data correctly. It's been a great challenge, right? So for each program, attendance is being taken, and our goal is to be able to actually pull data for specific individuals. So what I mean is, if John Doe comes back, we want to see what programming did he do before, how long did it take for him to recidivate, what's working and what's not. So we're still in the beginning phases of collecting that data, but program attendance is being taken so we can pull all the generic recidivism data from ATIMs currently.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions, comments for Deputy Board Supervisor? Yes, Kim.
We talked about statistical analysis. We talked about who's in prison and all that. And now we're talking about programs and the progress of the Are we going to have a prison stat sometime in the future? And can some of this data, when you have time to do it, some of this, can that be encompassed into those reports of the prison stat?
We have one scheduled for August.
We have one scheduled for August. My direction to the staff is use data and metrics that help them become a better organization. So when we started in 2017, the metrics we used, some are still the same, but some are different. So that's always sort of the big picture. Use metrics that if you continue to improve them, you're going to become a better organization. So to the extent that they think this new data helps them with that, and Joe has a portion of prison staff, then certainly I'm open to that.
When is the prison staff meeting scheduled?
Kim is looking, I want to say 1-3, or 13, the date slips. I can let you know. As soon as she gets it all, present it.
Other questions on Deputy Board Service report? Okay, thank you all. Thank you. Next up is item D, the administrator report with Carl Brown.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
As always, mine is kind of short and sweet. We have a vacant HR manager position that should be posted, we hope, in the very near future. In the meantime, I'm happy to announce that we have a new HR assistant, Ms. Hannah Gibson. She comes to us with extensive customer service and administrative background, so we think she'll be a great asset to the department and the county. Other position that every month I would say is continued to be vacant has now been filled by Ms. Jennifer Sager. She comes to us by way of York County, and her background is fiscal administration as well. And likewise, I think she'll be a great asset to the department and the county as well. So want to welcome both of those to Lancaster County Prison and the County of Lancaster. And we continue to review and update policies as needed. We are in the process of updating our web page, reached out to the respective departments. As always, when I'm doing any type of updates, I rely on the subject matter expert, and so I've done so regarding the website. And so we hope to have that up and running and updated within maybe the next month, hopefully. And as always, if there's any topics that you would like me to discuss or add to my agenda and take that into consideration, what you asked about Neil, when it's doable, we'll definitely do it. Please let me know. Feel free to reach out to me.
Questions, comments for all?
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next up is item E, the facilities management report.
Good morning, everyone. Continuing to work with the new correctional facility team. I'm sure the board will be up here in a few minutes to talk about the work we've been doing over the last month. Looking at work orders for the month of May 2025, we closed out 134 work orders, 627 for the year. We have 125 average per month so far in 2025, and over the last 5 years, 127 closeout average. We do have an open position on our maintenance team, so if you know anybody that's looking for a career in maintenance here at the building, please reach out to us. We'll get you in touch with CGL. And other than that, are there any questions that I can answer?
Questions, comments for Bob? His report. Okay, thank you. All right, item F, financial report. Anything from the Controller's Office this month, Cap? No. All right, item 6, no old business, so we'll get into item 7, new business, the new prison project update with the ward.
Right, go ahead. So, project update for the new prison. The county continues to follow the procurement process in search of construction management service team. The evaluation committee is currently reviewing 5 proposals the county received and will rank them based on technical merit and the proposed cost. The 3 firms that rank the highest will join a Board of Commissioners meeting in July to present their proposals. The Commissioners will not be making a decision at that July meeting, but will have the availability to review the proposal presentations, ask questions, and evaluate which firm will be best to join the county in the construction of the new correctional facility. So that's what I have. I also want to say I know both Chief Goshen from Mount Joy and Chief Wiskowski from West Lampeter are here. We have had many meetings, our focus being central booking. That is, as you have heard me speak of previously, one of the 7 alternates that that is in discussion for the new jail. So we have recently met with them. I know they will be speaking to why they feel as though, and I've also asked my captain to join them and provide input from the prison standpoint, and I might throw a few things in there, but a lot of good stuff you'll be hearing. So.
Okay, thank you, Ward. Questions, comments on any of that? Okay, thank you. And so we'll move on to item 8, business for guests. I know the Chief wanted to make some comments on business for guests, so I'd certainly welcome you to come up to the podium.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Brian Wiskowski, I'm Chief of Police of West Lampeter Township. Prior to that, I did being in West Lampeter. I spent 24 years in Lancaster City, retired in 2014, retired as Chief of Police of West Lampeter. I say that because I'm going to reference the Lancaster City part in a moment. With me is Chief Rob Goshen, and he'll be speaking shortly, but just to kind of give him
He's chief of Mountjoy Borough. Prior to that, he spent 25 years in New York City PD, retiring as a lieutenant. And that's relevant because York County has central processing, so he has very unique experience with that.
And I will add, he also started out his career here.
Yes, thank you. Yeah. So he has his feet everywhere. I appreciate you all turning the heat up. Deputy Warden Castro, I have no idea how you're doing it with the suit, but God bless you, brother. I'm also president of the Chiefs of Police Association, and that's why I'm here today in that role. And I just want to say the Chiefs of Police Association not only represents the local municipal police departments, but we kind of have a wide span there. The district attorney is on the association, the sheriff is on the association, probation parole, as well as the barracks commander for the Pennsylvania State Police, Lancaster Barracks Commander of the Pennsylvania State Police. So it's kind of a broad net. So when the county started talking about building a new prison several years ago, the County Chiefs of Police Association created a subcommittee to reach out to other counties to try to get an idea as to what worked and what didn't work, kind of best laid practices. That committee consisted of Chief Deputy Chris Riggs from the Sheriff's Office prior to Chief Deputy Mark Schaefer, Captain Randy Zook from Lancaster City, Lieutenant Mike Piacentino from Manheim Township, Chief Goshen from Mountjoy, and myself. And the reason I say that, we have the Sheriff's Office represented, we have the city represented, we have the first-class township represented in Manheim Township, we had a borough represented, and we had a second-class township. So again, we try to get pretty kind of a big, wide swath there of people to get a lot of different input. Through those times, we visited several sites. We also met with, I believe then Lieutenant, and now Captain Secord, and the warden to talk about what we learned from them. And we continued those meetings up to quite literally last week. We just had a meeting to talk about what we, as agencies, as kind of end users of that, what we thought would be the best practices to have inside that central facility. So we want to talk about what we see as advantages and disadvantages of it. Prior to doing that, we thought it made sense to, and do you mind me and my Vanna White? You're a lot better looking at it, so. I'll get it here. If you could take one and pass it down, I appreciate that. What we wanted to do is we wanted to talk about the current process, and it's important because the current process is a little problematic, to say the least. The sheet that I'm handing out, and I apologize if I don't have enough for everybody, or that Rob is handing out, it lays this out. So this is, if you could hold it, landscape, not portrait, but landscape, and it goes from left to right, not from top to bottom, and that's frankly because it wouldn't fit top to bottom, because again, it's not a direct process. So the short version right now is the county prison does a form of central processing right now. Now, you may not be aware, but this prison's not built for the free flow of people, right? So their staff has, and I can't express the job that the staff has done in the current system because of how this prison is built. They've done a tremendous job in this, but it's just an inefficient process, and because it's inefficient, it actually has a negative impact on everybody. So we're going to talk about this. I just want to quickly, I know many of you are in the profession, you understand it, but just so we're all kind of singing from the same sheet of music, we're going to talk about summative and arraignable offenses when we talk about this. A summative offense, a person gets arrested, they get processed, and then the police send the charges. The defendant will then get a letter by the Manchester District Justice, a subpoena, they come to court, and they start hearing. An arraignable offense, they have to go before a judge, and bail gets set. And I just wanted to clarify that again. I know many of you know that. And then the other thing that we're talking about is business hours and outside of business hours. Business hours are primarily 8:30 to 4:30, 4:15, and then after hours would be anything outside of that, including weekends and holidays. So to go through this system, the current system now, the way we work this, I go again from left to right. We're going to go from left and it bridges out. So if prisoners arrested by police, they're transported to the middle block, and then up. It's to a live scan police department. A live scan is a digital. It takes digital fingerprints and photographs of people. There are 27 municipal police departments in the county. 15 of them have live scan machines. Those who don't need to take their defendant some other place to get fingerprinted. All right, there's a flaw in that process, and I'll explain that in a second. They're fingerprinted and photographed by the police, and then if it's after hours, it goes, which is again after 4:30 p.m. They get transported to LCP, and then they get released. Okay, they're released from our responsibility. So that's that first process. If it's after hours, and then after hours, the county will if it's an arraignable offense, to hold them for arraignment, and I'll get to that point in a second. But that's the process there. Our responsibility, police responsibility, ends there. If it's during business hours, and these are under the current system. If it's actually during business hours, then we have to transport them to the district justice for arraignment. And there are problems with that. I'll get to that in a second. If they're committed, yes, they're transported to county prison. Again, we're done if they're not committed. And then we'll transport either back to the PD, but our responsibility ends. That's under the current system. And we're going to talk about the flaws in that whole thing in a minute. I just wanted to get that out there. Now, what we want to see, we're hoping to see in the new facility, the central processing. We arrest the person, we transport them to central processing, and then we're done. Local police responsibility is done. So we have this current system now where if this, then that, and we're spending a lot of time, and I'll get to that in a second, spend a lot of time, whereas if we had a central processing facility, we pull in, we drop that detainee off, and we leave. And the process then is taken care of by a county prison. If it's an arraignable offense, they'll hold them. They could be arraigned. If they're committed, they go in one door. If they're released, they go out another door. Does that part make some sense for the process? Okay, so here are the issues with that. Again, 27 police departments, 15 live scan machines. So if a cop from a police department arrests somebody, they have to take that prisoner, they have to take him into their station. Now outside the city, again, I worked for the city, never fingerprinted a person in my life when I was in the city because we had people to do that. But that doesn't exist for all the other PDs. All the other PDs, other police departments, their officer has to actually process and has to fingerprint somebody. So we take that person in, we process them, if you have a cell, we put them back in the cell, we're watching them, we have to pay the charges. If it's during business hours, then we have to wait for a district justice. That could be 15 minutes, it could be 45 minutes. The district justice may be in the middle of block hearings. So now we are literally babysitting the prisoner. Now that's a problem for many departments because that could be, for many smaller departments, you might have 2 or 3 cops out there, maybe 1 cop out there. That sole cop now is babysitting the prisoner and they can't do anything. They can't go. If there's another call in that municipality, that call pens, or another municipality has to go handle that, which means another municipality now is short-staffed because they're sending a cop to take care of this. I mentioned the live scan machines. The live scan send automated digital fingerprints directly to the state police repository. And as they're taken, they'll show up whether it's acceptable or not. If it's acceptable, great. If not, then you have to redo it. But if you don't have a live scan machine, now you have to either take them to another jurisdiction. Again, you're out of your jurisdiction. Take them out of a jurisdiction to that, or you have to do old school ink prints. And then, frankly, you hope and pray that the prints are good enough that they're accepted by the state repository. And if they're not, and I see Chief Deputy Mark Schaefer, we worked together in the city, and he kind of went, yeah, because remember those days when we get those forms back saying prints aren't legible, you got to reprint them. So now you have to go find this person again to reprint them. It's wholly inefficient and ineffective. And we're all living someplace in this county, and our taxpayer, our money that we're using right now, our resources, are really being, frankly, wasted with a lot of this because of that. When we're, again, we could have that prisoner for 15, half hour, 45 minutes before we see a district justice on those arraignable offenses, even summonable offenses. We have to monitor that prisoner. We can't leave that prisoner alone, go handle a call, and come back. It doesn't work that way. We have to stay with that person that entire time. So anything else you want to talk about as far as the inefficiencies of the current system?
I'm more the numbers guy. I can get into some of the heavier data and stuff. We've been collecting data on the amount of time it takes for a municipality to transport somebody currently down to the prison. To say that's a Herculean feat is an understatement because everybody counts differently. Everybody has a different way of reporting it. From the data I've collected, generally speaking, when I say inside the prison, I want to make sure everybody's on the same page of music when I say that, is when we breach that first gate, the gate closes. We're no longer allowed to leave. The police department can't because of security concerns for the prison. So that doesn't mean we're necessarily in the prison per se, but we're in that wall. So currently the average that's starting to be projected is we're spending roughly 40 minutes in this facility. Now granted, there's some horror stories where we're in here an hour and a half. There's other times where we're able to get in and out in roughly 20 to 23 minutes. Why is that? The prison's obligated to do counts. Those counts, when they do that, their facility goes into a lockdown status. There's also other incidents that are required to go into a lockdown status for the protection of the inmates and protection of staff. When they do that, nobody's allowed in and nobody's allowed out. So you're sort of caught in purgatory if that seems to happen when you're bringing somebody in. That's detrimental. Now, the other piece to it is to transfer time of that person down to the facility. Right now, the best metric that I can work out is to create basically radius rings. If you're within 5 miles of the facility, there's a good chance you can get in and out of an hour. That's an hour off the street. That's counting driving down here, processing, and then going back. As you go out another 5 miles out to the 10-mile range, now you're up to an hour and a half. If you go out to 15, it's almost a 2-hour commitment for that to happen. For those of us that live in Lancaster County, you can appreciate the further you get away from the city, the smaller the departments are. And more detrimental it becomes when your staff is now obligated to transport somebody down to a facility, not knowing if you're going to get in and out in 20 minutes, or if you're going to get stuck and it's going to be an hour and a half. And that's assuming everything works correctly. We're still actively collecting that data. So that's a big piece with the central processing. Central processing at its heart operates 24/7 independently of the prison. So the prison's free to go into lockdown status whenever it suits them. And that central processing keeps operating 24/7. That's a necessity for us to get our staff in and get it out. Additionally, I look at central processing more like central assessment. That being said, that gets more into the benefits of it. You want to jump into that?
If I just go back quickly, and I just want to say that you know, it's not the throw shade. County prison is their staff is operating under a very archaic system. This building was built in 1850. Again, it's not built for what's happening right now. But when we talk about the central, what we see as central processing, adjoining, if you will, the building, the current, or the planned correctional facility, this can operate separately. So as Chief Goshen was saying, we pull in, if they go into lockdown, we can still pull our prisoner in, or detainee in, drop that detainee off and leave while they're in lockdown doing count or maybe dealing with an issue. Not a problem. That doesn't happen in the current facility right now because it can't happen because it's actually inside the building and it's inside of everything else. Again, no fault of theirs, and their staff has done a great job with that. But those are some of the current problems that we have with the current system. Again, so the central processing is not a new concept for us in this county. It's just how it's done, and it's only done after hours. So during those business hours, and again, I don't want to play the chicken little, the sky is falling, but I do think everyone has to recognize and understand, because those of us who live in a county, your resources, this is what's happening to your resources. This is what's happening to your cops. So when you call for a cop, that cop may or may not be available because they may be doing something as simply as driving a prisoner into prison and having to sit here and wait just to go through a process because, again, of how this process works. They may not be able to handle that call. So your wait might be exacerbated and elongated because of that whole process. So we want to talk about the benefits that we see as we see this. So
With that, and I'll flesh out the time thing too, but currently in the facility.
I just asked you to run through it fairly briefly, because there's other people who will have questions too.
I can be very quick. To clarify with the time too, the current facility as it stands, not only has to process new commitments, but they're also handling inmates going in and out for hearings. That creates a lot of tumultuous confusion down there that they have to be very, very careful who's coming and who's going. That's what stretched that time out. Central processing removes that piece out of that part of the facility where they're moving detainees back and forth. Some of the benefits go in, and as I alluded to, I look at it as more of a central assessment center. The people that come down here that need to be printed and photographed don't necessarily need to be incarcerated, but they need to be evaluated. And that evaluation right now is very weak because our resources are spread all over the place, and currently we do a very bad job of communicating. Some of those benefits that can be brought in with a centralized facility is the higher risk assessment could be applied to incoming possible detainees. It's also easier to get a more holistic picture of their criminal history if there is one, because currently it's only going to show misdemeanor and felonies when we get into clean CJIS. It's not going to show summary violations, which arguably a magistrate would want to know, particularly in the consideration for bail. There could also be room for probation and parole, so that if somebody is currently under supervision, we now have an avenue to put them on ankle monitoring and again, release them. Veterans. Right now, we have a broken system to get veterans into treatment facilities where they rightly should be for some of the ailments that they suffer. It's very obtuse at this point, and also people with MHMR issues that they don't need to be here. They need to go elsewhere. And right now, we don't have one area where that's measured. Right now, we have a live scan machine, or video arraignment. So the magistrates don't have to come in. They can stay in their offices. But everybody would be able to go to one point, have the same access to all those resources for an assessment and be evaluated to make a strong determination as to whether or not, yes, we need to incarcerate them, or no, there's other diversionary areas that we can put them into, including like blueprints, which is also underutilized. So someone who's suffering from addiction, that's not going to get corrected immediately coming in here when we can put them into a treatment facility. So there's a huge amount of benefits with that. The efficiencies, obviously, it's twofold. We keep the law enforcement officers in the community that they were hired to protect because we shorten that time. And additionally, you're expounding on the resources by creating the efficiencies by economy of scale by putting them all in one location, which ideally I think that would want to be a goal of the county. So the other piece to it is the processing of warrants. Again, this piece, this central processing and central assessment, this is another avenue where those warrants can be addressed. Currently, we have over 100,000, is that correct? There were 100,000 summer warrants. And right now, we have a broken system that's struggling to try to address those warrants. So holding people accountable is necessary, but that doesn't always mean that they have to be incarcerated just because they have a warrant. And that needs to be addressed, but we have to have a system in place that's able to process them efficiently. And the big piece is to shrink down their contact time with the criminal justice system. That's huge. Not everybody has paid time off. Some people, if they get picked up on a warrant because they can't pay because they don't have the money to pay, now the current system, particularly my department, picks them up. I may have them 2 hours. They could lose their job because they can't make that call. If we can shrink that down to where we can get them out, get the warrant addressed, and back out in the street, I mean, that's huge. That's huge. We minimize that impact, and I think it's best for the community.
I know Captain Secor wanted to address some points from the prison standpoint, please.
I'll be brief. I know everyone's hot, and I know some people want to talk, so I'm going to echo a little bit of what they said briefly. We're mostly in agreement of what we want to do moving forward. I just want to touch some of the reasons as to why. Although we acknowledge that this will increase volume of prisoners' daily workload for the staff, we feel is essential as we move forward now is the time to design this to suit the future needs of the county and its correctional facility. Our goal has always been to be a good team player and partner with both the community at large and the other law enforcement agencies in our community. We feel the community will benefit drastically by reducing the amount of time local police are involved with prisoners in a holding pattern away from their jurisdictions so that we can get them back to their localities to continue their duties where they're most needed. It will also enable us to centralize resources for both inmates and arrestees being released. Because as you know, not everyone who comes to jail is a hardened criminal. Some are just in need of help. And by having all potential offenders processed in a central location, it will enable us to focus our resources in an area where they're most needed. We feel that our staff are the best people for this job here at the prison. They've been doing it for almost 13 years now, and their experience involved with central processing and arraignment is substantial. Obviously, there's a cost to this. Will there be more work added to the staff? Yes, but we want to be a good partner in this community, in this law enforcement community, similar to what we did during COVID, when we ran the inmate court schedule for the sheriffs and the MDJs to assist them as well. It's important for the prison team to continue our positive relationships with our local law enforcement, as this is a substantial undertaking. The thing I want to be clear about the most, and Chief Goshen mentioned it a little bit, is we all need to be on the same page, all relevant parties. That means police, the DA's office, judicial branch, adult probation and parole, local police and MDGs, and the prison. We ought to be on the same page because we all know there's an existing backlog of warrants. So if we open that door, we start doing summaries and tackling some of this backlog, we want to make sure that is to address and hold the offenders accountable and not to increase incarceration, not to increase prison population. Because if we start increasing the prison population and we're building a facility with a certain amount of beds, there's a chance we could be overpopulated before we even start. So we just want to make sure that if we go this route, and that is what's decided, that everybody is on the same page of what we're designing and what it's for. Yeah, that's basically what I have.
If I can just wrap up, just as a Chiefs of Police Association, we understand that there's a cost associated with this, right? Obviously, we know that, but we think this is quite literally, it's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity when we build this facility, once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And we're begging, cajoling, requesting, whatever, the board to recognize that. We're taxpayers as well, but like you all, like everybody out here, we want our tax money to work effectively and efficiently for us, right? Right now, that's not happening. And we maintain that building this facility and equipping this facility is going to allow that to happen. Again, how this works day one is going to be different how it works day 1,001. We get that. It's going to change. It's going to morph over time. But do we have any questions?
Great. Thank you, Chiefs. I'm sure we'll continue the conversation. We appreciate your collaboration and the association's collaboration as we move forward. I know there's going to be more conversation about this to come.
I'd like to just make a comment and just first of all say thank you, particularly to the three of you. This is an issue I feel like the general community is really not aware of how this all functions, and it's complex, and you know, algorithm is great to help make that happen. But I first want to thank all three of you because I know several of you have spent time with me to get me to really understand what this means. I'm totally supportive of having centralized booking. I feel from economies of scale, for sure, as a county, so you have the municipalities doing what you're doing, you have the various police departments doing what they're doing. But this clearly will build some economies of scale and efficiency, and seems to be the right thing to do, certainly from a financial overall county and what the individual municipalities would do and what we can do as a county, but then also for the individual prisoner or people that we're talking about to get them processed as quickly as possible. So it checks a lot of boxes as being the right thing to do from a financial standpoint overall for the county, and then also from a public safety in the short term and the long term. So both of those I think are pretty big deals, and this makes a lot of sense. I just want to thank you because it's complex. I think I totally get it, probably about 90% there by now, and after several meetings, and want to thank you for taking time out to help me, particularly with that learning curve.
Thank you, ma'am.
If I can just kind of bring it in, so I don't want anybody to be confused. We will still, regardless, in the new facility, we will still run central booking. It's how we run it, how big. Will we have a live central booking, you know, be able to do breathalyzers and blood draws and all that. And as the warden, this is a really good time. Not seen it, you know, many times in my younger years here, that we're being united here. We're standing with our police departments. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. We're building a new jail. Let's do it right, because who knows if we'll ever have this opportunity. We won't have this opportunity again. And if we don't do it, I'm not talking about day one move in, we're up and running a central booking. You know, we'll have to get there. As they have all indicated, it's a united front. It's the DA's office, the sheriff's department, the courts, everyone working together for those efficiencies. But I wanted you to hear it from me also. I definitely am for, and we need to do this. But regardless, we will be running central booking in the jail. You know, how big is the question?
Great. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
If there's other folks that have questions for comments to the board, I just ask you to come to the podium and state your name and municipality.
Morning, I'm Tom Lucy, LLP. Just on the central booking issue, I was wondering, I guess, what's the current status of that? That it's a bid alternate in the current plan?
Correct.
Okay. And
Which means it's in the plan, it's just a question of, well, the space is in the plan. There's two questions about central booking, we've said this before. Do you build the space for a true central booking, as we're talking about? And then at some point, once it's built, do you operationalize it? And if so, how do you do it? So it's in the plan right now. It is a bid alternate along with other things. So the final plan could end up with it, could not, but it's in the current plan.
And when would that decision be made? Would that be part of, I guess, would that be made after, you know, a construction manager's hired? I guess, at what point in the process do you decide? Whether
Down the road when we're doing bids, I mean, that's like one of the points of the bid alternate. So you get those bid separately, so you could do a combination of things. You could do all the things. Depends on how much it ends up costing.
Is that part of the bid for hiring a construction manager, or that's another bid that happens down the road for the actual construction?
It's not part of the construction.
Okay. I wanted to touch on, I've heard from some family members of people, of prisoners inside right now, just because of the heat. I know it's a perennial problem, obviously. It just, some of the issues I've heard is that there was, you know, the water wasn't drinkable for a period of time because of, I guess, I don't know if it was, I was told it was salty. I don't know if that's the chlorination treatments. So I was wondering if we could get an update on that. I heard that the showers right now are extremely hot, and then that's a principal way that prisoners get some relief from the heat. And I also heard that the prison was providing some ice and water. I was told by one person that the water was being given 3 times a day. So these are just kind of various, you know, details, snippets I'm hearing, and you know, you could just kind of provide an update on what's happening right now. I also heard that there was some kind of protest by prisoners in a block that they were either not eating or refusing to go in lockout, and if that is true, or if that was resolved. So I guess I'll start with that. I have a couple other things.
Well, I'll just, the warden, yes, go ahead, Warden. You can tackle the details. I'll just say from the big picture, I mean, these are the same exact questions you asked last year, last summer. They're the same exact questions that are asked every summer. It gets hot in the summer. Our staff does everything they can to make it reasonable, make it livable, but it gets hot. probably has since the 1850s, and it continues to do so.
I can
Warden, if
recite,
you
yeah,
want-
I can recite this in my sleep, but they're fair questions, I understand the loved ones outside having those concerns, so let me make sure I address all your statements there. So water softener, we have one, I actually have my maintenance supervisor out here, and I, talked to him, but I know the answers. We have a water softener every Monday, the salt is added to that, and, we're working with old pipes here as well, and we're working on that corrosion, that's to prevent that corrosion as well, and it's how it navigates out through the building. I myself have tasted the water at points during my career here. Does it taste a little salty? Yes, that's the water softener. I want to stress, we still are conducting water tests based off of our Legionella issue that we have had in the past, and our water gets tested every quarter. We're safe, we're good, the water is safe to drink. I want to stress that. Does it taste salty? It sometimes, yes. And that's because of the water softener and the additive being added into it. Protest, so what you refer to as a protest, we do not. These things happen in jail, especially when tensions are high. Heat brings those tensions up on our maximum security block. This week, 3-2, we had some inmates that were frustrated and wanted us, and I know you all laugh, but we do get this every year. They wanted us to turn the air conditioner on. There's a lot of folks that think we have it, we just don't choose to turn it on. That is not the case. I don't ever know where that originated. I've been hearing that my entire career. If we have it, we turn it on. And there are some housing units that have it. So there were some inmates that requested supervisor. The supervisor's staff on day shift did go up. They addressed their issues. The issue was the air conditioner. We don't have it, so we can't turn it on. Ice water. I will let you know that ice water is being recycled in and out every hour. We have an inmate worker that he's totally dedicated to that. Goes up, pulls off the Cambros, almost like at your sporting events, the large drinking jugs. He pulls them down. He replenishes and refreshes them every hour. That goes from morning into the evening hours. And I actually saw my 4 to 12 supervisory staff want to continue that later after the 8 o'clock hour, so they took that initiative to do that. So we are providing, and ice is provided at every meal, or breakfast and lunch, is it?
Lunch and dinner.
Lunch and dinner. So we are trying to do that. Large factory fans, free shorts for the inmates in the summertime. And please, I don't want to forget my staff. Remember my staff, and they're working in these conditions as well, fully uniformed. You might have saw that we have fluids provided for them. We're trying to do the best. We have an officer going around, an extra officer to provide breaks. We're sending out education information for everyone. Heat stroke, be cognizant of that stuff. So these are not new things, as Commissioner Parsons indicated. We will continue to do them, and as issues come to us, we will address those. That day, there was inmates that then refused to eat. That's just their way of communicating. That's nothing out of the ordinary. Did I address
Yes.
everything?
Thank you, Warden.
Yep.
I guess the showers. I mean, I've heard this before, I think in past years. that
So, right,
sometimes
it's because
shower
the building
conditions-
is hot. We have a brick building here. So Dan continuously is adjusting the temperature of the showers as we receive those indicators on the housing unit. But nobody's setting the water up higher. It's the building and the heat of the building and how it's contained. New jail. We're working on that. Yeah.
Thank you very much. This shifting topic, Chaz Lowry, the young man who died here in March, the city police told me that they're no longer investigating that case, and so I was wondering if the prisoner, or the prison board could give some kind of update.
I'm not aware of us receiving anything from the city police yet. We were actually waiting for them to give us something. We haven't received that. Of course, the coroner's post-mortem report is out, but we have not heard from the city police yet, so that's news to us.
Okay, so because of that, no update today. I wanted to touch on something. The report of grievances from Prime Care includes delay in services, and I wanted to see if I could find out more here about how that works, because in particular, it's my understanding that the Prime Care does not really keep track of the time it takes for them to respond to requests. So if somebody's alleging a delay in services and there's no way to track response times, I'm wondering how you kind of litigate that.
Just to go through the process, what you're referring to, as you mentioned, is the grievance process. That's the inmate's outlet to complain about services or procedures or policies. That specific tag that's on that is our estimation, so that we were asked 2 years ago to break things up into various sections so that we could track specific topics. So when we get a grievance, we will sometimes put that into that category. If you look at this month's grievance process, we had 0 complaints of delay in services, but there are instances where inmates feel that there is a delay in service. So we will investigate that when we get the grievance, and we will respond to that.
Okay. I've heard lots of complaints about delay in service. So, you know, obviously the numbers are what they are. But
Inmates have the opportunity to put in sick call slips. Sick call slips are triaged getting them within 24 hours. And then within 72 hours after that triage process is completed, a nurse or a provider will see that inmate.
in any particular time?
It's in order of how they're
First come, first
triaged.
served.
No, it's
Oh, triage.
It's triage. So if it's a serious incident versus maybe dry skin, that dry skin might go to the end of the line or be later on in the process. But they have 72 hours to follow with that inmate.
All right. Thank you very much. Appreciate all the answers.
Thank you. Other questions, comments?
Hello everyone, just wanted to clarify on the
Can you
topic.
say your name so we have...
Fatima Long, CBS from the news. Just wanted to clarify that lockdown refusal that we heard a lot of claims about online. We just wanted to clarify whether that was due to that quote-unquote hunger strike and if that has ended since yesterday. We saw a lot of comments and posts online about how folks are feeling, and I know you just clarified that, but...
So I'll clarify a little more here. So behavior issue up there, not wanting to lock in. So supervisors go up and address it. The inmates then locked up. It was probably a 5-minute ordeal. Less than that, my deputy is indicating. Yeah, and he was present. And some inmates then refused to eat. Again, I addressed what their complaints were. Because they were delayed in locking up, my major made the decision that day to do quarter-tiered lockout. They were not locked in. We don't call it a protest, and there was no... your other question?
Has it ended since?
Yeah, I'm sorry?
Has it ended since?
Oh, it ended that next morning, yes. So, and they don't come out and block out during the night. So yes, it wasn't anything. I know it's new to the public and you're not hearing it. It wasn't anything that we don't see occur here often.
And really quick, were there any protests or protesters that arrived to the prison to speak about the matter?
Not at all.
Were you able to see what block it was?
3-2.
3-2.
Yeah, no protesting.
Thank you. Any questions, comments?
Last question on the matter of water. Is there currently a lack of water, or is it really just back to that issue of it being
No lack of water. In fact, we're handing out water. I mean, we're doing more than we would do in the winter months. So there's no lack of water. Yeah.
And does the board want to comment on the matter of anything mentioned really on the matter of yesterday and all that? I hear it's a annual thing, if you will, but anybody?
I think the board answered the questions. Thank you. Other questions, comments? Yep.
The awards have a heart cholesterol. I'll be brief. And it's to talk about central booking. We moved on before I was able to ask the question. Can you hear me?
Yeah, just trying to speak a little loud. Yes, you're soft.
I'll try. I sit there and I get hoarse and I sit there, yeah. Or whatever. So the concept of central booking hasn't been defined. Is that true, or you're about to define that?
I'm not sure what you mean by define.
Well, what is the procedures?
We know what the procedures are.
Okay.
We've been doing it since 2012.
For central booking. What would be, and so my question is, up here I see all this and interaction with the MDJs, so that's where I think in here. Is there a procedure documented for central processing now, and how is the MDJ involved?
Right, so, what do you want to answer that, Captain?
So your question is specifically, what's the MDJ's role in central arraignment right now?
Yeah, like they're included now. The police go to the magistrate and so forth, and they're sent here or they're released. How will that work in central processing? So the new system.
So the difference that we have right now, we distinguish between central arraignment and central booking or central processing. What we have now is basically central arraignment. We are an after-hours, weekend, holiday to absorb prisoners who are coming in who have not yet been committed and need arraignment from the MDJ. The MDJ then is on call for a week period, and that MDJ generally does 2 sets of arraignment throughout the day, one in the morning and one in the evening.
Okay, so you have like a night or after-hours judge.
Correct.
And he makes a decision whether to detain or not detain.
Correct.
Right. And so the district that the person was arrested in, then what is the MDJ involved too? That local jurisdiction MDJ will eventually get that case, probably for the preliminary hearing. But the on-call MDJ is the one who's going to He'll make the initial decision.
Correct.
And then it'll be a follow-up hearing with that MDJ.
At that level.
And on the central booking, is that process, procedure outlined, the steps that you would go through?
I know internally we do that process and procedure.
Yeah, so is there a way that we could go to see how that works?
Something, yeah, something.
That'd be great. So we understand that. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Other questions? I'm sorry, very quickly, just on the central booking of the bid alternates, how would that ultimately, I mean, is that something that's decided by a vote by the prison board? Does it just go to the commissioners for a vote? How would that decision ultimately be made?
I mean, I'd have to rely on counsel to be sure, but my belief and understanding is the commissioners ultimately have to say, because it's a matter of cost. Obviously, we want to be aligned with the prison board, and we've been bringing basically the same things to the board of commissioners that we've been bringing to the prison board throughout. So I anticipate that it would be a collaborative decision of both, but ultimately, who's the authority? The board of commissioners has the authority to pay the bills.
Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
Just a quick follow-up.
Can you say who you are and where you're from, please?
Cindy Eastern, I'm with Have a Heart, and just also a concerned citizen and some things. And just want to ask the warden just about the water issue and stuff. A question, they're locked in, but are they still getting access to
I
that?
should have mentioned that, yes, they
Yeah.
are. I should have mentioned that, yes. We have a working party, inmates on the block that get paid to work, and they are handing it out. My apologies for not mentioning those that are not out. So that's a good question, so I apologize.
Okay, because then I just, and I didn't realize what you're saying, and I'm kind of new to all this, but you rehash this every year. I'm part of the chapel team, and I was in last night, and I realize they're in jail, accountability, it's not the Taj Mahal, but there's a humane aspect to this. I was sitting there last night, and I was just literally dripping, doing nothing, and it's just making me think, like, what conditions that they are enjoying, as well as your staff, and I realize that you could do to them, because they're doing all that as well. So just wanted to check on that every hour thing, and then also, a thank you to your sergeant that was on duty last night, because he got us all other stuff to drink in addition to.
Appreciate that. Thank you for your support for coming in and helping out.
So that, okay, so moving on to, one other thing, I had, some people that I know, family members that are in jail, and one of the women was mentioning about that they were locked down, I don't know, in last week or two, and that sometimes it happens because of staff shortages.
Never.
Okay, that does not happen.
Does not happen. I do not have a problem with staff. While you've heard 29 today, that's not a problem. I can tell you 99 when that was a problem. We don't have a problem. There are
That's
not
what I
staff
was-
shortages, no.
I realize two sides to the
So
story.
let me also follow up with saying there are times where we might have multiple med runs that go out of our building, and you know we have to juggle to to put people in places that they're not in. To why I say no, we don't have a staff shortage. There are things that we can't foresee that happen, and those things happen, but it's not because we don't have them on the payroll.
Okay, but they can't do that.
Right.
Okay. On a lighter topic, and this is just for my information, I'm trying to understand it better. So I understand they all get tablets, you've had that for a while.
Correct.
Does everybody, they all get them for free, or they have a rental fee for those?
So there's two options, and Arlen might know better. They all get them for free, but then if you want the extras,
Right.
or you want it to be yours, there's a fee. It was $5.
$7.50.
Yeah,
$7.50. It's
$7.50.
optional, but the basic plan is available at no charge to every inmate. If they want additional services, then it's a monthly subscription.
Okay, so that's $7.50 a month.
Right.
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Right, and it's yours. Like each day you're getting the same one, and it has all your apps and stuff on it. So
Okay.
yeah.
So on my question, and I am not a total technology person at all, but so they're paying that, and then they pay for maybe user books or whatever the extra stuff is that they get. But when they leave, is there any way that they can purchase that tablet to take with them?
No.
Okay, so then once they leave, is there any way that they can access the account that they had to get?
No.
I didn't think so. And my question to that is because, then they pay money for these other things. And I know, unfortunately, I have known a few that have been out and come in and they're delighted when they come back because it's all still on there. But also their personal things. So you've got pictures or whatever that have been sent and letters that have been sent, and they lose access to that when they're out because they can't re-access that. So my question is there any way that
Unfortunately, there's not. As we know
technology
it.
can do that? And no thoughts ever of them being able to purchase a tablet just outright on
Actually, I
their
don't
own?
know that I've ever been asked, heard that before, but I mean, certainly a question we could ask, but I can't guarantee. I mean, I'm sure it would have been addressed, but I don't want to assume either.
Right,
Yeah.
so that's not something that would be in the...
No, it's not currently an option.
Okay. All right, and then just one other thing on that, on a good note, I have heard wonderful things about the DOVA app that has been added, so that is for people that don't know, so that's a free thing access that does give them, that aren't paying for something, that they have access to some other things, so that is a good thing. So, okay. All right, thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Other questions, comments? Ma'am?
Gail Grove Scott, Health Policy Network, Lancaster, Pennsylvania. I know it's very hot and uncomfortable, I'll be brief. I just want the workers, the staff here, the warden, the deputy warden to understand that people here care about how uncomfortable it is for you and how uncomfortable it is for the people that are incarcerated. We actually had pretty strong attendance, even though this meeting was moved without notice on the website, but people still came. So we're here because we care.
This meeting wasn't moved. This meeting was always scheduled for the person who will record.
Well, it's not at the usual third Thursday.
That's because of the holiday.
Right.
Next week.
Right, so,
We do a certain amount of meetings every year at the prison. They're scheduled throughout the year.
yeah, the date is not on the website, so it's difficult to find until the agenda is posted, which was the week after many people had scheduled to attend this meeting. I understand you're going to improve the website and make some changes to it. That would be helpful. Also having the prison staff meeting so that we can put it on our calendars in advance, since that date is not posted. There are people that wanted to be at this meeting and they can't come because it's not very accessible. We've asked the county commissioners to record the meeting. We are posting on @Health Policy Network on YouTube recordings of the meetings so that staff members who couldn't attend can watch this important discussion. I didn't know that this discussion about central booking was going to be here because it was not listed on the agenda. It was business from new guests. That was a really important discussion. And I have a quick question for the chiefs and for the representative chief from the Chief of Police Association. You made a very convincing argument about why we need to have central booking. I think everybody is in favor of it in the new facility. The space is one of the issues. But that new facility is 3 to 4 years out. And you talked about how the system is broken right now. Is there any kind of creative way that this county could be addressing this now? Could we be coming up with a temporary central booking facility this year or next year, sometime before the four years when the new jail is going to be built? Because it sounds like we've got a broken system, and I think it's our job to fix that broken system. I appreciate your answer to that. Thank you.
I'm going to try to save 10,000. Yeah, I'll come up front with it. I'll try to stay at the 10,000 foot level because you guys are hot and you don't like it. There's a lot of pieces that aren't working well together. They're just not. So I don't want it to come off like this is a prison issue and only a prison issue. There's deficiencies on the law enforcement side, the court side, the magisterial district judges, bail admin, probation, sheriff's office. We're all working collectively together to try to fix it. One of the big pieces that the steel monitor, it's like throwing jet fuel on it, is to have central processing. But currently what we're working on is trying to iron out those issues and try to plug in some of the processes now so that the warden and her staff have the ability to make adjustments based on the uniqueness of Lancaster County. But some of those other changes that need to occur, they're happening. It's just we're very slow and we're very methodical about it. So we are working on it. It's not just, hey, we're going to wait 4 years and then suddenly everything's, we're going to try to make a move to it. But one of the processes obviously is tracking booking fees. Some of it is transportation times. Some of it's going to come down to staffing issues. The warden and her team need to make a strong evaluation on the staffing necessities they're going to have. Additionally, is the warrant counts. So, and how that's going to look. And we don't want to overwhelm the system where we break it. That's not going to help anybody. So we have to do it very, very incrementally. And we're fortunate we have the right people in the right place at the right time. I think this is advantageous for us to start making the adjustments.
And it's not something that we just started looking at. I mean, I was saying before, my time in the city, we actually looked at this in the early 2000s to have a central processing, all the way back in the early 2000s. I found a study when the city considered itself, or considered being a central processing site, when it moved from 39 East to 39 West, just and built a new police station. So it's not something that we just started looking at, but as Rob says, Chief Goshen said, there's a lot of moving pieces in it. So this now is the most opportune time.
We've been meeting for 3 years.
Yeah, well, longer than that, but we've literally been at this for over 20 years, trying to get central processing. Yeah.
Is that, you good with that?
Thank you, appreciate that answer.
Thank you. Other questions, comments, or yes? Okay, if not, is there a motion to adjourn? No, moved. Is there a second?
Second.
You don't want to adjourn? Is there a second?
Second.
Yeah.
Second. All those in favor, signify by saying